Hi, this is Robert Kelly, the host of Record All Monsters. Just stopping in before the episode to let you all know there are a couple of pronunciation mistakes and such in this episode. A good friend of mine and friend of the show, Henri Hatta, let me know the correct way to pronounce the name of the film, Rashomon, not Rashomon, Rashomon, and just wanted to get that out of the way. Let you all know that I'm aware and I'm working on my pronunciation of Japanese words and names. They're so important to this overarching story we're telling about the history of giant monster movies. So, on with the show. Hello, I'm Robert Kelly, and today on Record All Monsters, Gojira versus Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and the loving tenderness of localization.
More than wind, rain, and lightning, much more. I wasn't just sure what it was. No one was sure. No one except the natives. And they were positive. They said it was Godzilla.
What can I say that hasn't been said about 1954's Godzilla? Or even its now much maligned 1956 US import version, Godzilla King of the Monsters. Given the amount of ink spilled over the original's importance as a film and an allegory, I kind of feel like talking about this movie at all is almost a waste of my time and yours. I doubt I will say anything you haven't heard before, but given the fact that my goal on this podcast is to talk about the history of giant monster movies, how can I ignore the movie that inarguably changed literally everything about the genre? The film that introduced Godzilla, my favorite monster ever, to the world, and whose many sequels would come to dominate the landscape of this particular genre all the way to the present day, almost 70 years later. Well, I'm going to talk about it anyway, and I'm going to urge you to stay and to listen, because I'm going to try to say something here that is nuanced and difficult to explain. And it's related to my central belief that giant monster movies are fun. 1954's Godzilla is a masterpiece of atmospheric filmmaking and deserves all of its accolades. 1956's Godzilla King of the Monsters, though now derided as an abysmal edit of a glorious masterwork, was and is a good and necessary film, and the one I watch more often of the two. Please hold your tomatoes until the end. It would be very hard to read with all the pulp in my eyes. Let's start by looking at the market for foreign films, and Japanese films in particular, in the 1950s. Most of this information I'll be sharing comes from David Kalat's excellent commentaries on the Criterion Collection's 2011 Blu-ray, which included both versions of the film. In 1952, Akira Kurosawa's iconic film Rashomon was released in the US. It was the highest-grossing Japanese film in the States at the time. Its total US gross? $200,000. That's just shy of $2 million in today's money. It won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, for crying out loud. That's a miserably small amount of money for a film of that prestige. For context, let's look at the winner from the 2020 Oscars, Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, which pulled in $53 million at the US box office. Or just for fun, $5.5 million in 1952 money. Either way, it dwarfs Rashomon's take. I know we mostly think of foreign films being subtitled as a recent and respectful innovation in presenting them, but this was the norm in the late 40s and early 50s. Not out of respect for the original work or its artistic merit, but because it was cheap. Dubbing a film could increase the cost for the distributor by up to 10 times as much, so you only dubbed a movie you really thought was something special. Joseph E. Levine felt that way about films in general, and he wanted to make foreign films accessible to general audiences. He had hits with Roberto Rossellini's Open City and Paisan, and Vittorio De Sica's Bicycle Thieves, and when he saw Ishiro Honda's Godzilla, he thought he could make another hit of it. But the story was very uniquely Japanese, and the film's attitude toward the H-bomb and radioactive fallout, both intellectual and literal, were extremely different from what they were stateside. Just take a look at last episode's movie, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, for an illustration of that. It's a great disservice, actually, to call it only Ishiro Honda's Godzilla. The film is a testament to the collaborative nature of filmmaking. Ishiro Honda certainly left his stamp on the film as its director, bringing a documentary style and his experience as a POW, but producer Tomiyuki Tanaka, who had the initial idea for the film, Akira Ifukube, who composed the score and created the monster's iconic roar, Eiji Tsuburaya, who created the special effects that brought Godzilla to life, and Haruo Nakajima, the man in the Godzilla suit, all left indelible marks on the film, and by extension the franchise, and by further extension, the genre. There are better sources on them than this podcast, and we'll have a lot of time to talk over their roles throughout it. In my opinion, they're the most important players in the whole story, and Tsuburaya in particular holds a special place in my heart. But to try to do justice to their hard work and genius in this short space is even more foolish than trying to impart the importance of Godzilla at this late date in an early episode of a brand new podcast. Levine knew that given the cultural differences between Japan and the US, he would need more than a dub job to make the film accessible. This was a film from a nation we'd been at war with just 9 years ago, after all. Enter Terrio Morse, an editor and director with a background in cheapy Mars who'd worked as a film doctor before. The casting of Raymond Burr, whose career up to this point consisted mostly of playing heavies and minor villains in gangster and crime pictures as our American hero, was another, on the surface, strange decision that seems to me to be a minor stroke of genius, or at least one of terrific luck. As David Kalat once again points out, instead of the 1954 version's straightforward storytelling, Morse and Levine borrow a flashback structure in the style of film noir to let us know the height of the stakes from the very beginning. I'm not clear on whose idea it was to recut the film in the way they did, but given his background, I feel like all signs point to Morse. Our hero is buried in rubble when we arrive, and he tells us how he got there. The heart of both versions of the movie is Godzilla's second attack on Tokyo, though the initial attack on the city includes an undeniably Kong-inspired and undeniably excellent train sequence. The second attack is an unrelenting 13-minute release of all of the previous tension and dread that had been building up to this point. In terms of innovation in the genre, the alleged point of this alleged podcast, I guess the biggie here is Godzilla's atomic breath weapon. Nothing like it had ever been seen in the genre before, and really the same goes for Godzilla as a whole itself. The level of effort and thought Morse put into importing Godzilla is remarkable. And that's really how I believe we need to look at this version of it, as a labor of love. The final product was overall very respectful to the tone, story, and spirit of the original, and it was wildly successful as the first Japanese film in the US to be a bona fide hit at the box office, earning $2 million, only the fourth foreign film in American history to pass the $1 million mark. It's almost $19 million in today money. Look, I know box office success is not any real indication of a film's quality. After all, the last Transformers movie made $605 million. But grant me a further indulgence in the following barely coherent rant. Godzilla 1954 is a brilliant movie, but I've hopefully proven that the market for foreign films in the US was absolutely abysmal under normal circumstances, and simply subtitling it and releasing it to the American public would have consigned it to playing art houses for wealthy snobs who would have snubbed it for the crime of being about a giant monster instead of some dude slowly killing himself with cigarettes and ennui. Without Godzilla King of the Monsters, my favorite monster might not have reached so wide an audience as soon as it did. It was a necessary decision. Times have changed, and Godzilla has been given its due, but so often at the expense of its Americanized version. But here's the thing. You don't have to denigrate one to admire the other. Many critics accuse this edit of robbing the film of its power and transforming it into a standard giant monster movie, but the charge holds no water, like a rusty colander. The fact of the matter is that there was barely such a thing as a giant monster movie at the time. I like Godzilla 1954, and I like Godzilla King of the Monsters. To do so is not a great paradox, because thematic darkness doesn't equal quality, and the kaiju community's attempts to be taken seriously have resulted in us shooting ourselves in the foot, robbing us of our right to enjoy the sweet but empty calories that make up the bulk of the genre, which is a fruit in this sudden and mixed metaphor, so that we can impress our dietitian friends by eating the bitter but nutritious rind. One final point on the US version's merit. In 1957, Teruo Morse's Godzilla King of the Monsters was released to a warm reception in Japan, with the English dialogue subtitled in Japanese. And it was this version that took the world by storm in the late 50s. Godzilla is indisputably the better film, and everyone knows that now. But it was the US version that seems to have truly made Godzilla the king of the monsters.
Hi, I'm Michael Tanner, one of the hosts of Burn After Pitching, the comedy pitching podcast from the Grand Geek Gathering Network. On our show, every month we bring together a panel of really talented people to pitch their ideas on a topic. Sometimes it's new TV shows, sometimes it's movies, or board games, or musicals, or new holidays. We have a lot of fun, and I think you will too if you give it a listen. Just search for Burn After Pitching in your podcast catcher of choice, or just Google it. You know how the internet works. www.figureitout.biz/garbage-file. See you then.
Godzilla, King of the Monsters, surging up alive from the depths of the sea in a tidal wave of horror.
See before your very eyes a city of 6 million wiped out by a monster breathing flame.
What is Godzilla?
A creature from prehistoric time?
Or a mutant monster created by man's tampering with nature?
Godzilla!
Modern weapons cannot kill it.
Can science find a way to stop this creature's mad rampage before civilization is destroyed?
For the answer, see Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
A tale to stun the mind.
More fantastic than any ever written by Jules Verne.
More terrifying than any ever shown on the screen.
See Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
We're counting down. Oh no, we're here. I'm Robert Kelly. Welcome back to Record All Monsters. And I'm here with Parker and Quentin. Parker and Q. And we just watched, after a manner of speaking, the original Gojira from 1954. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
There you go. And Courtney is here too.
Hi.
As always. So, y'all have fun watching the movie?
I loved it.
The most depressing movie in the franchise?
Yeah, it's a pretty sad movie in regards to everything that happens, but still one of my favorites. I always have a good time in any Godzilla movie, really.
And I was really surprised, when I had first seen it, that was probably the darkest thing I've ever seen, probably in a Godzilla movie, but for it being in, the 50s, that was kind of probably the darkest thing that came out of that, but it was still a good movie.
Yeah.
Since Q had showed it to me, I had seen most of the films except for that one, I think. So it was good.
That one was really hard to come by until.
Yeah, that's what he had said, and then he had gotten that massive collection, and then we had all sat down to watch it at one time.
That old classic media DVD set. Yeah, I remember that. So, let's get started, guys. Let's talk about, first of all, how did each of you get into monster movies?
I got into monster movies, Godzilla movies, really, from my father. He was the one who would call me out of my room when I was like 5 or 6 and be like, "Hey, Q, Godzilla's on." I didn't know who that was. And I would just come out and I would just see this big dinosaur. To me, it was a dinosaur that was just spitting out blue flame, and it was just the most amazing thing. Still is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And from that point on, it's just been Godzilla. You can't tell me anything. Godzilla can do no wrong to me. I love Godzilla.
Yeah, Parker?
For me, when I was younger, I thought most TV was in black and white. Like I told you earlier, you'd see it late night. My grandparents' house, they go to bed, they wouldn't wake up, and then me and my brother, we'd sneak into the living room and turn the TV down really, really low, and we'd get lucky. So we'd see like Jason the Argonauts, or an older Godzilla movie at the time. I think maybe the true one I had seen, besides the Hanna-Barbera one, because I was like, oh, there was a cartoon, and that was all reruns. But I think like the one I actually got to sit down and actually watch as a maybe I say young teen was like Godzilla 2000. Like that was like my first experience, and I was like, oh my god, like what is all this stuff? And back then you couldn't research a lot. We didn't have a computer for a while, so it's either what I could see at the comic book store, or I'd see toys at like the KB Toys,
right.
And you kind of piece it together. But that was like my real kind of first dig at all that.
Your introduction. Yeah, I remember at KB Toys when I was a kid. My dad would take me sometimes when we had time to kill, because I got off school earlier than my sisters because I was so much younger than them. And I just always remember the KB Toys had those Trendmaster Godzillas.
Oh yeah,
and they were like in the 2-packs, like Godzilla versus Rodan. Godzilla.
Yeah, you always had a monster to play with him.
And then for Godzilla 2000, the 20th anniversary was just last month at the time we're recording this. I remember my dad took me out of school that day.
Okay.
And
special occasion.
Yeah, like I was surprised. I had just gotten to school, and then I got paged to the office that my dad was here for me. And then we went to see the movie.
Nice. Don't tell Mom.
Pretty much.
But she was a teacher there.
She was a teacher at the school.
We do what we want.
So, I'm going to get into it more in another episode, but from a very young age had lots of Godzilla experience.
Also, my Godzilla to me will always be the Heisei Godzilla, because that's when I got into him. So that's my favorite Godzilla, the Heisei era, man. And then I stumbled across. I would stay up late, and that's when I would stumble across like the 60s Godzilla.
Yeah, like late night.
That late night, late 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning ones.
Because they'd be on like sci-fi.
And I would see the ones I remember watching. The only few that I would catch usually would be the Mecha Godzilla ones. And so that's how I discovered like the 60s Godzilla.
Yeah.
So you got lucky. I got to see like Hedorah and like Ogra.
And I still remember. You remember Blockbuster?
Yeah. off topic before that, like I remember seeing a few more because cassette, video shops were big, and we had an independently owned growing up in Victoria. It was the movie shop, and this guy like put all his money into it, and he owned it, so he got everything. And you go, and he had this one little section in a corner, and he had like 5 like Godzilla VHS, and you get to see, there was only 5, and I get to remember seeing a few of them. I can't remember which ones they were, but at another point, I remember he had gotten a 6th movie, and the other kids that were like into it, they're like, he got a different one. And then you go over there, and you try to go rent it, and it's gone, and you're like, I guess I'll get it whenever whoever has it brings it back.
Yeah. One of my biggest regrets. And it's that I remember when the Blockbuster in town was going out of business, and I must have been like 10. They had a clearance bin, and it was full
all that stuff
of Godzilla movies.
Oh,
and I only got the one that I thought was cool because it was all like 60s Godzillas, and it was the Godzilla versus. It was the Terror of Mechagodzilla, and I still have that. One, and I regret because I remember seeing King Kong versus Godzilla and Godzilla versus Megalon and Ghidorah was in there, but these were all like the original VHS, like the cool artwork on the cover and everything. I was like, God, I should have grabbed the whole bin, the whole crate, and just walked out with it.
Yeah, I remember just the old Hollywood Video here in town that we used to have. When they went out of business, I bought 2 Godzilla movies, and they were only like $5 each, so I don't know why I didn't just grab the whole shelf.
I mean, being a kid and having money.
Yeah.
I was poor.
I remember, like, it was like, I wanted a pack of, like, Pokemon cards. I go mow the lawn, and then I'm like, hey, Grandpa, can I mow the lawn again? And like, you just mowed it. I can't give you any more money. Hit him.
I did that raking leaves for my grandpa once. I still feel bad about it. Like, I raked all the leaves, and he gave me, like,
a quarter,
$4 or something. And I was like, thanks, I need more money. Can I rake more leaves? He's like, no, there are no more leaves to rake. Like, fine.
$4.
Like, I can't even buy candy with this. But it was, I just remember at Hollywood Videos where I first saw a Godzilla movie. I was 3, and I love dinosaurs, like everyone. And I just saw, like, hey, it's a dinosaur. And there's a robot dinosaur? Well, this is going to be great. This is going to be fantastic. And I lost the family coin toss for who was going to watch the movie. So I got up real early the next morning, and I put it in the VCR, and I lowered the TV down to 3 because that was as low as you could go and still hear it if you were like right there,
real close.
Yeah. So I just remember it was like a whole other world opened up in front of me, and then I remember Telemundo used to show Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 in Spanish like every Saturday night.
Oh my god!
For like a year, like one summer, they just showed that in the 70s Dino De Laurentiis King Kong over and over every night on Telemundo. In Spanish, of course. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, Godzilla movies is hard. I mean, you gotta really love them, but to sit through like the quote unquote boring parts, basically just the talking.
Yes.
When you're a kid, it's hard to do.
Well, and the one we watched today had a lot of the quote unquote boring parts. And we were watching the original Japanese version with subtitles. We were doing a lot of talking too. But I think more than a lot of them, that stuff holds up in this one. What do you guys?
Yeah. For being the first one, it's a good, it tells a good narrative.
The first one is it's special because it's the first Godzilla movie, and it really shows to me how, or more or less, I guess you could say, what Godzilla was supposed to be. Because Godzilla started off as a monster, pretty much. He was just a force of nature. He didn't have a personality. He wasn't there to be the hero. Yada yada yada. He was just there, and he was just basically destroying the town and everything, and killing a bunch of people. And it's good to see that side of Godzilla, the original side of Godzilla, because, you know, as you all know, later on in the decades that followed, he became more of a hero.
Yeah.
And in the 60s, he became more of a kid-friendly type of thing.
Like at the beginning of Godzilla vs. Hedorah, feel you roll your eyes. I think the listeners could hear it. At the beginning of Godzilla vs. Hedorah, the kid's brother or cousin or whoever that strange adult man who comes to his house is, and he sees him playing with Godzilla toys in the yard, and he's like, "Is Godzilla your favorite?" And the kid goes, "Yeah, Godzilla and Superman." And it's like, yeah, there was a time where Godzilla and Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're both superheroes. They both fight evil things. Mm-hmm. And now...
Big animated piles of trash.
And I know now that people like to kind of, you know, try not to focus on that image of Godzilla. But for me, because I grew up watching the Showa movies on VHS, because that was all they, like they said, that's all they had. Mm-hmm. They had like maybe 10, and I'd watch them all 100 times.
But, you know, coming from like kind of where you're at, like I loved dinosaurs when I was a kid, you know, and you get to see all the older, you know, older, you know, claymation style. Mm-hmm. And you see that, and like with Jason and the Argonauts, like I was just like, oh my god, like this is great.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get this other stuff. And you're like, oh, it's not like this, but it's with some kind of dinosaur. And you're like, oh, what's his name? Godzilla. It's like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And it was nice, you know, I could share it with, you know, my brother and my dad. And, you know, I had other family members that liked it too. But, yeah, it was more just like, oh, you found this thing and it's really cool.
Yeah. I remember when I tried to talk to my friends about it. Mm-hmm. And they were just like, what is it?
Yep, I remember that.
And only one other kid knew what I was talking about, and it was because they showed the Hanna-Barbera cartoon before Scooby-Doo on Saturday mornings. Yep. So he'd be like, yeah, that's the thing that comes on before Scooby-Doo. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you fool.
There's a Godzilla cartoon.
I remember being in the same predicament what you just said, Robert. I was in elementary school, and we had show and tell. And I brought my Godzilla vs. Godzilla VHS to school, and nobody else knew what the heck that was except for one other kid who had the audacity to tell me to my face that King Kong was better than that. My little 10-year-old fist had never been so clenched.
Like me, we're gonna fight on the playground.
We literally went and we told our teacher, "You want to have a movie day?" And we made the kids sit and watch. They didn't watch it. They didn't even care. Me and him were sitting there like having a little 10-year-old debate. You see what Godzilla can do? He can breathe fire. You don't know what you're talking about. And he told me, like, you know, King Kong wins in this movie. Shut up! And I remember that. I still remember he literally brought his King. He must have went to the same clearance bin that I went to. It was his King Kong vs. Godzilla versus my Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. I remember. I forgot his name though, but I still think about that day.
He made sure you weren't invited to his 9th birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember with my dad talking about when I first rented Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. I was like, look at this! Like, behold, Father! and he said, yeah, it's the Godzilla movie. I was like, yeah, what is it? Monster dinosaur thing fighting a robot? He's like, yeah, there's a lot of them. And he fights another monster in all of them. I was like, whoa! Whoa, you just blew my mind, Dad.
They've been around longer than I've been alive. What?
Like, this doesn't even make sense. How is this possible?
Yeah, there's stuff before me. What?
Okay, so we are going to go ahead and take a break, and then we'll come back and play the game. The name of the game is The Geography That I Stands to You Superior. When we get back.
Hello, I'm Robert Kelly, host of Record All Monsters, and this is an ad for Anchor. That's right, an ad for Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. I was super intimidated to start this podcast until I heard about Anchor, and there are a number of things that made me feel more at ease to begin. First of all, it's free. They have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. They distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on multiple platforms, including whatever one you're listening to. And you can make money from your podcast easily with no minimum listenership. All you do is enter your information, Anchor takes care of the rest. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. This is the mandatory call for action that I have to read out now, but it's true. You can download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. I've been Robert Kelly, host of Record All Monsters, and this has been an ad for Anchor.
Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Hey kids, look what's coming to our theater. It's alive and it breathes fire. I gotta see that picture.
Mightiest of them all, Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
More fantastic than any story by Jules Verne.
Gigantic in spectacle. A thrilling picture for the whole family, kids and grown-ups alike.
See death-defying underwater photography.
See scientific miracles wrought before your very eyes.
Awesome.
Incredible.
Unbelievable.
A monster that wipes out a city with its blazing breath.
Can modern science destroy this creature?
For the answer, see Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Fantastic beyond comprehension.
Gripping beyond compare.
Astounding beyond belief.
See Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Hello, welcome back to Record All Monsters. We're back, ready to play the game show. I'm Robert Kelly. We're here with Q and Parker. We're playing the game show, The Geography That I Stands to You, Superior. Bringing a hit film from another country that largely speaks a different language can present a unique challenge, especially since idioms and turns of phrase don't always translate exactly. But sometimes there is no excuse, and strange ways of saying simple things crop up in the translation process. So in our game tonight, The Geography That I Stands to You, Superior, I'll read you a questionable translation, and you need to tell me if it's a real line from an official dub of a Godzilla movie, or if I'm pulling on your legs, as Google Translate says the phrase is from Japanese. There will be no prizes, penalties, or points awarded.
All right.
There will be points awarded, actually, because Courtney's going to keep score to see which of you wins.
Yeah, Courtney.
All right. So, y'all are such big fans, these are going to be pretty easy for you.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
How is this like a game show where do we have to slam a hand on the desk to get the answers first? How do we do this?
I'm gonna read the quote.
Okay.
And then each of you calmly tells me if you think it's real or not. And then, if you're right, you get a point, so you can both score on a round.
Okay.
All right. And then whoever gets it right the most times wins nothing.
Notoriety.
That's life.
All right. Okay. Is Space Titanium, you mean it's from outer space? A real line from a dub, or am I pulling on your legs?
Ooh. Because that sounds like that's something.
I say they full on the legs with that one.
I think it's correct. True.
All right. Parker, you are correct. That is a real quote from the original Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, as it was released in the U.S. in 1976.
All right.
That's one of my favorites.
All right, second question is, his head looks like Jack Nicholson. Don't smile like that, it'll stay that way.
Oh.
A real line from an official Godzilla dub, or am I pulling on your legs?
This one's tough because I know how they like to take pot shots at us. I'll go false.
False? You said false as well?
Mm-hmm.
That one is false. It's from the Mystery Science Theater 3000
That
version
sounds like something like
of
that.
the Jet Jaguar theme song from Godzilla vs. Megalon.
Okay.
So, third question is, Godzilla and Biollante aren't monsters. It's the unscrupulous scientists who create them that are monsters. A real line from an official dub, or am I pulling on your legs?
That's a real line.
Yeah, I think that's a real line.
That is a real line from Godzilla vs. Biollante. I just
That's like at the end of it, isn't it?
It's at the very end.
That's the end of it.
And it's just, it's so like, you know, we just saw the movie. We don't need it, you know.
That's the part when you see like the picture float out from Brawlhalla.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her Sears portrait.
Yeah. That's a big kaiju, man.
Yeah. I guarantee you, it will go through Godzilla like crap through a goose. A real line from a dub, or
that's gotta be
legs?
fake. That's gotta be fake.
That's fake.
That one is real.
Oh my goodness! Like crap through a goose.
That is from Godzilla 2000.
We gotta go back and watch that.
So I've witnessed that.
Yeah, they're They're describing the cadmium missiles.
Okay.
That they think will make his blood coagulate.
I remember that. I remember that.
Go back and see that part.
But that's exactly what it says. I guarantee you, it will go through Godzilla like crap through a goose.
Oh my god.
And for
I did have him pause it.
we laughed so hard.
I'm gonna have to.
See that, and like I told you, I didn't see that one. It was a dubbed over one, so I can't even remember what they said in English.
And this is our last question. And I think y'all, this is a slam dunk for both of you probably. Is, oh Godzilla, what terrible language. A real line from an official dub, or am I pulling on your legs?
That's a real line. That's Mothra.
That's a real line. The Shobijin translating the Conference of Monsters.
Yeah.
So what's our final score, Courtney?
I think you won.
Parker wins 4-3.
Or King of the Monsters.
King of the Monsters. And that's our game. The geography that I stands to you superior, which, by the way, I took the name of that game from the infamous Revenge of the Sith Chinese English subtitles.
Whoa.
You can find it online.
That's like the translation?
They translate it into Chinese and then translate it back into English.
Oh, no.
That kind of sounds like all your bases are belonging to us.
It's pretty bad. It has some great weird lines. The geography that I stand to you superior is when he tells him, "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground." The geography that I stands to you superior.
And then he loses both his legs.
All right. Well, wasn't that fun? Once again, I want to thank Parker and Q for coming in, watching the movie, talking to me about it, and just our general experiences growing up as Godzilla fans. Thanks to Courtney for all of her technical help. You can follow her on Instagram at @CMiceArtStuff. Parker and Q have asked that I not share their social medias at this time. But they're great guys. You'll be hearing more from them this season for sure. And hopefully beyond. It was a great time talking with them, playing the game. And just to let you all know, if you do want to follow us, you can find us on social media. Facebook, just search Record All Monsters Podcast. Twitter, we're at Monsters Record. And Instagram, we're at recordallmonsters.pod. You can also contact the show at recordallmonsterspod@gmail.com. We read emails on minisodes from time to time, and we're hoping to get to do more monster mailbags. We also have merch on TeePublic. Just search Record All Monsters. The link should be in the description to our TeePublic store. And that's all I've got for you. Thank you for listening. Please come back next time. And remember that monsters are your friends.